Remembrance, recognition, and resignation and responsibility. Remembrance. This video is dedicated to the memory of my nephew, Christian Pierre McCall, the 19th of July, 1983, to the 31st of January, 2024. The details of my nephew's murder are still unclear, and his case is under investigation. I'm not writing this to elicit sympathy. I do solicit prayers for my sister Dawne, my mother, and my nieces. Literally a week before Christian was murdered, thoughts of him filled my mind, and I prayed for him, that he'd live up to his name. In retrospect, I believe I was praying as much for myself. Recognition. Christian is my nephew's name, but as you know, to be a Christian is a way of life. To be like Christ is a matter I'd like to delve into deeply at another time. In asking to be shown some vital areas where I am not exemplifying Christ, I was shown that the spirit of anxiety and overwhelm were major issues. Please don't assume that I for one moment think this is all I have fallen short in. In Philippians 4:6, we are commanded to be anxious for nothing. To do this means trusting God's plan. Jeremiah 29:11. I recognize that Jesus was never anxious or frenzied. For instance, in John 7:53-8:11, the story of the woman taken in adultery, most recognized by the words, "He who was without sin, let him cast the first stone." There is absolute calm and clarity of mind in Jesus' actions, just as in the case of Lazarus. John 11:1-45. In verse 21, Martha exclaims, "If you had been here, my brother would not have died." In verse 23, he says to her, "Your brother will rise again." In verse 35, Jesus wept. So having deep feelings is not the problem, nor is it a weakness. Even in those feelings, we must trust God. 2 Timothy 1:7 says we have not been given a spirit of fear but of power and of love and of a sound mind. When we operate in fear, we are powerless, loveless, and unsound. Sophreno is a Greek compound word combining sozo and phones. Sozo means saved or delivered. Rescued, salvaged, protected, secure. Phroneo refers to a total frame of mind, your logic, your emotions, your rationale, every part of the human mind. Recognize that spirit of fear and allow the Holy Spirit to deliver you from it and salvage your mind. Resignation. George McCausland was a director of a huge YMCA in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and after a heart attack, the doctor told him that if he continued to work 75 hours a week, he wouldn't live another year. His high blood pressure and chaotic lifestyle had caught up with him. When George got home to recuperate, he was sobered by the doctor's admonition. He went out on his back porch and wrote a letter to God. "Dear God, I hereby resign as general manager of the universe. Love, George." And George says, "Wonder of wonders, God accepted my resignation. Father, I hereby resign. Love your daughter Bajei. Whenever I remember my nephew Christian, may I remember that as a Christian I'm under God's management. I love you forever, Chris." Auntie Peppy.